AWS OnAir. I am Jasmine Kiles. I'm a manager of product management here at AWS, and I'm joined by my co-host, AM.
Hey, I'm AM Grabelny. Nice to see you all again. I can't see you. You can see me. I'm a developer advocate here at AWS, and we are talking about some really cool new stuff going on with agents in Bedrock.
Excellent, yes.
Right?
Yes.
But first, please introduce yourself to the people, John.
Sure. John Baker, I'm a principal engineer with Bedrock, and specifically I work on agents for Bedrock.
Okay, let's start with that, John,
Okay.
if you don't mind. Before we jump into the new cool stuff that we were going to get into,
Sure.
where does an agent fit into somebody working with Bedrock, right? I open up Bedrock. I'm exploring the foundation models. When am I going to start utilizing agents?
Yeah, excellent question, excellent question. So agents, it's all about automating work for people. You give the agents your tools. The tools would be in the form of, say, your APIs. And then using those APIs, the agent will take a request, and it will break down that request into the individual tasks that will need to be done to fulfill that request. It could be calling the APIs, or it could be doing something else. In this case, we're going to be demonstrating one of the new features of agents, which is code interpreter. And but you can also add to your agents knowledge bases, which augments the agent with your external knowledge.
Okay.
Right.
So now you can ground the answers that the LLM gives to your customers. Maybe if you're building, say, a chat interface,
Yes.
you're going to put that chat interface in front of the agent. And then the agent, rather than just having the LLM converse with the person, the agent is driving that conversation.
Okay.
And it can make use of external knowledge and knowledge bases, or it can make use of the tools to answer questions. Like tools could be your APIs like book reservation. Or since we're here in New York and Wall Street is actually just down the street, right?
You're right.
Maybe get stock prices.
Oh.
Or other portfolio and stock type APIs you might have. The agent then can take the user's request and figure out, okay, do I need to go and look in the knowledge base, or do I need to go and call one of these APIs?
Okay.
And the way it does that is it actually asks the LLM, hey, given these tools, given this knowledge base, what would be the next step to answering this question? And that's the user's question.
Ah.
And so then the LLM says, well, invoke this tool.
Okay.
And then the agent is that orchestrator which goes and invokes the tool.
Okay.
And then it takes and it invokes the tool, gets the response back, and it hands it back to the LLM and says, here was the original conversation that we had. Here's the tools you had. And here's the user's query. You told me to invoke this tool. Here was the answer of the tool. And then the LLM will then usually give the final answer after one or two tool calls, depending on how complex the query is, whether it's just one API call, one knowledge base call, or multiple calls.
Yeah.
It can break that down. So that's really what it's about. It's about automating work for people using the LLMs. And the great thing about agents is that the prompt engineering we do for you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
Nice.
you don't have to go figure out, well, I want to use the latest version of the Claude model.
Yeah.
What is their updated guidance for doing the orchestration of tools? We do that for
Agents takes care of that.
you. Yeah. We work with the Anthropic team, and we have a large test set we work with, and we figure out, okay, what's given their guidance and our test data, what are the best prompts to use? And the great thing about agents is you can see our prompts. So if you
Okay.
want to see what the prompts that we use inside your agent, you can just go to Edit Agents,
Yeah.
go down to the bottom. Advanced Prompts is one of the options, and you can see all those prompts.
Yeah.
I think that's a really the use case that you're going to walk us through here for your demo too. I think is illustrative as well in terms of understanding, at least for me, I think.
Yeah.
And tell me where I'm wrong here, John, which might be a few places. But LLMs as they stand, they have certain capabilities when they're trained. you have access to those capabilities. Agents then allows you to extend those capabilities to some of these new areas. And with the Wall Street example specifically, right? LLM wasn't trained on prices today,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
But
good point.
your API can retrieve the price for today.
Yeah, yeah. It can retrieve the prices. You give it a price API, it can retrieve them. We also have a new feature with Code Interpreter
Okay.
that you can add files and then ask it to operate on those files.
Giving it context,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
only
Exactly.
extends the further capabilities that the LLM is
Exactly.
able to achieve.
Yeah, yeah.
That's something. So I'm a developer, right? I write code. They tell me to stop, but I keep doing it. So I write code, and yeah, that's what I've found too. Sometimes with working with some of these LLMs, when working on it, is having the context around what you're doing really improves the results that I've personally seen, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
And that's true of literally us coding, right? As people, right? Like the more files, the more libraries I can actually see into, the more context, the better code I can write. So, makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I think you've hit on probably one of the best points about working with LLMs and working with Gen AI. Treat it like another human. In other words, if you're giving it a prompt and it's not doing what you want it to do, maybe show it to one of your coworkers. Say, hey, what would you do if I gave you these instructions?
Right.
And if they're confused, then likely that you need to simplify the prompt. Right. So one of the best pieces of advice, and this came from some of the Anthropic prompt engineers that we worked with. They said, treat it like another human. If a human would get confused, then likely the LLM would too.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about code interpretation.
Okay, yeah, excellent. Code interpretation is a new feature for agents. And what this does is, I know we've all done it. We've generated code with these models. And truly, I'm amazed at the amount of, the level of knowledge that it can apply to the code it generates and how accurate the code is.
Yep.
Now,
I've been impressed too.
Yeah, it doesn't get it right every single time.
Right.
But even when we initially had this idea and we ran a set of tests, say, how good are these models? We were just blown away by the initial results at how accurate the code was initially. So when you turn on code interpretation and you ask it to generate code, or you give it a problem in which it might want to generate code for, what it'll do is it'll generate the code, and then it will invoke a sandbox compute session.
Oh, interesting.
That's unique to your agent. It's secure.
Yeah.
And all it has access to is just what you've given it, which could be a file that you give it to, and it has access to the code that's generated by the LLM, and it executes that, and then we return the output. Even if it generates, say, a graph, which we're going to see here, I'll generate a graph, and it's going to return that, and then you can have access to that and the code it generated.
Wow.
So using our trace events, so with agents, at each step, each time we do something, whether that's we go to the model, or we execute an API, or we search a knowledge base, every time we send you a trace event because we use a streaming API. So we'll stream to you, hey, we're querying the database.
Okay.
Or we are generating code. So we'll send you the code, but we send it to that sandbox and we execute it. And that sandbox session will stay for an hour.
Okay.
And so you can continue to build on it. You can continue to say, hey, and you'll see maybe in some of my examples here how I refer to things previously, and I don't have to redefine those things.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Is it specific to programming language? I imagine if you're executing code, you've probably got a limited set of programming languages.
Yeah, great question. Right now, we're doing Python for the preview.
Okay.
Cool. And we're giving n number of libraries, the most popular libraries out there.
Sure.
For Python, we looked at and we said, okay, well, which one of them would be good for the use cases that we've talked with customers on, which a lot of the customers are interested in this for, say, a data science
Yeah, I would
persona.
imagine that that makes a lot of sense.
So we include, a lot of the libraries that would be typical in a data science environment, and you'll see me make use of those here in the demo. And so we support Python, and as it evolves out past preview, you may see some other
a little
languages.
bit more.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I am on the edge of my seat, John.
Uh-oh.
I need to see this demo.
Okay. Okay. Well, now I don't know. I'm worried that I've oversold it.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Let me start up. Make sure I have a good session here. Yep. So I've saved away some of my prompts.
Okay.
So let me just grab one of my prompts here. And what I'm going to do, I worked on Wall Street in the hedge fund world, and we used to generate random data all the time.
Okay.
Because we want to maybe study a particular phenomenon or say, what's the probability we would have achieved this type of return? Is this random chance or not? So we generate a random price series. So notice here, I'm going to tell it, I've created an agent. I've enabled Code Interpreter. That's the only tool it has.
Okay.
And I'm going to say, generate a random price series with a mean of 0.25 and standard deviation of 0.15, and create a scatter plot of the series. Okay. Let's run it. And I'm running this live. No video here.
Yeah.
That's true.
No video.
That is true. You were tempting fate here, I
Let's
believe.
see.
But I believe in you, John.
Yeah.
I haven't known you very long, but I believe. Can you make it a little bit larger?
Uh-huh.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. So,
This looks like a matplotlib
it is.
graph here.
It is.
Is
Hey,
it?
hey, you really know your libraries.
I know a little Python. I'm more of a C# dev, John, but please don't hold it against me.
Okay. Well, let's go down and take a look here. If you want to see the code that was generated, you can go to our trace events.
There you go.
And we output a separate trace event for the code that's generated. So you notice here, you were right, matplotlib, look at that.
I see some I see that it picked 42 as the seed for the random number generator, which of course is the answer to everything.
Yeah. Well,
us hitchhikers.
See, it has that knowledge. The LLM has that knowledge. And then, so it generated the PNG file, and then we show it here. So that's interesting, but let's do a little bit more with this. Let's just create a histogram. Notice how I don't have to tell it now to what data series I want to run. It's just going to remember that.
That's true. So it's working off of the random data set that you just generated.
Yeah. So now look, it picks up on that previous memory.
Yeah.
And the code session is still alive. This is your sandbox. You get this sandbox for this agent.
And you said that sandbox runs for how long?
It has a 1 hour time. Yeah.
Cool. So for an hour, I can just go in and prompt, and it's going to remember that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Wow. And when you call end session, it's going to tear that down.
Okay.
But here, notice that it went ahead and it generated the histogram. And do you remember what the mean was? Because it should be centered around that mean. Test.
Uh-oh.
Well,
I didn't know there would be math.
See, it remembered.
Can we ask?
See, it remembered it.
Can we ask?
It remembered, but yeah, it was 0.25.
Okay.
And look how it centers around 0.25.
That's true, yeah. That's
okay. So, playing with random data is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Sure.
But, when you can pull in real data, that's even more fun, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, we've got some chats coming in.
Oh, fantastic.
Somebody in chat wants to actually build an agent that can pull in daily metrics of customer usage and group them by different categories.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, you can ask it to do things like that. Ask it just like you would another human being. In fact, I see Sanjana on there, one of our moderators.
Yes.
She's one of the senior engineers that built this.
Oh, wow.
So
cool.
whatever answer she gives, that's going to be the right answer. I guarantee you that. Sabojit's on there as well. He's another one of our senior engineers that worked on this. So the best answers are definitely going to come from them. But yes, talk to it just like they requested it from us.
Right.
That the way they phrase it exactly the same way to the agent.
Uh-huh.
So pulling in real data, not generating data.
Let's do
What do we got?
So here I can attach files.
Okay.
So notice I can choose files. And I'm going to, I have SPY and the queues. I'm just going to go with SPY. I like to play around with the S&P 500.
Oh, yeah.
So let's let's say, generate the percentage returns and create a histogram of this. Now I want to point something out here. The data that I'm giving it, we're not going to open up, we don't have time, but it's open, high, low, close.
Okay.
Just like a typical price series, right? But I didn't say give me the open, high, low, close, or give me the close. I said generate the percentage return.
Right.
So if I asked you generate the percentage return and I gave you the open, high, low, close, how would you do it?
No clue.
See?
Because
No,
I am.
no clue. Yeah,
Yeah.
You don't know, a lot of people don't have a background in finance, right?
I don't.
Yeah,
either.
yeah. So,
I'm a lot of people.
So imagine you hire a dev, you are a hedge fund, you hire a dev. Day one, you ask them to do this. This seems like a pretty standard thing that you do, in a finance firm. Is plot this type of data, and you give them the data, and you say, hey, create the percentage returns. Now I have to explain to you how do you calculate the percentage returns given the open, high, low, close. But notice it knows how to. Watch this. So I go into the trace, and it created the percentage change off the close price. Notice that's exactly how you would do it.
Okay.
You would do close to close.
Okay.
So close day 2 minus close day 1 divided by close day 1.
Okay.
Or, alternatively, you could take the log of those two, but we
Okay.
won't get into the math behind that. But here, notice it knew that. It didn't ask. So
Right.
you get like this expert data
Because
analyst.
someone else has already trained the model.
Bingo. You're exactly right. See, that pre-training, that it's learned the language, it's seen data like this, so it knows when I'm asking for percentage changes,
Right.
close to close. That's the most common one to use, right?
Okay.
So
Wow.
hey, and then we see, look at the history of the S&P returns there. This is the past year. It skews slightly positive, and usually, we ask an investment advisor. Now, this is not investment advice, just by the way.
I love the legal disclaimer.
legal
That's great.
disclaimer, not investment advice.
Do not follow what John is about to say.
But notice how it skews positive. So S&P 500, generally a good idea to just buy and hold.
Right.
Right?
It's a pretty stable.
And that's what you see. It centers around 0 because it's about even on positive and negative days, but you see it skew kind of positive there. So let's get even more complicated here, okay? Let's see how much better. I mean, the truth is, I just want to see if we can break it because this
Yeah.
is live.
Yeah.
This is live.
That's
Let's
the
have
fun
some
part of being live.
Yeah. So now I'm going to say take that same data and create a 20-day rolling volatility.
Yep.
So in other words, I did buy and hold this. I want to know how much my ups and downs were,
Right.
Okay.
right? So volatility.
Create a little panic.
Yeah, exactly. Volatility would tell me, like, if I had bought and hold this, how much ups and downs do I have? So let's go ahead and run it. Now notice I didn't have to reattach the data. It's going to go ahead and remember it.
Okay.
So it's executing. It gets the rolling volatility. And it did something very, very interesting. It gives it in the explanation here. It says, I created this rolling volatility,
Standard deviation.
and I multiplied it by the square root of 252.
Mm.
Oh, and it did mess up. Look at that. It didn't plot it.
Yeah,
Didn't
there's
plot
no
it.
plots.
Oh, that's live for you.
Oh,
We-
did you also say plot this and plot this?
Yeah. We'd have to go back and inspect the code
Yeah.
and see why.
Uh-huh.
But it knew in order to take a standard deviation and scale it to a year,
It's not 365.
it's not 365. It's the square root of the number of business days.
Interesting.
I didn't have to explain that. It went ahead and did
Okay.
it, and it gave it in the explanation there. And if you go through the code, you'll see how it did it. Why it didn't plot? It worked 9 times out of 10 before I got up here. So it knew.
Yeah.
It knew this was the time.
Yeah, it knew.
That's right, John.
So, but the great thing is, I can see the code and I can say, oh, okay, well, try this, boom, boom, boom,
Right.
and it'll fix it. Or maybe even just telling it sometimes, hey, this isn't correct. I'm not seeing any lines. Go back and fix it.
Yeah.
It generally will find errors like that itself when you tell it what kind of errors you're getting. So these models extremely intelligent. They just keep getting better when it comes to this code writing and just keep giving us great surprises.
Yeah.
The Claude 3 series of models, fantastic at this. 3.5, oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just blows
The
you away.
execution to me too of the code, actually, like executing, is incredibly exciting as well for me. But John, we got just couple seconds left. How do people get started? Just head on over to the agents in Bedrock.
Go to agents in Bedrock, create an agent, and when you create the agent, underneath the name and the instructions, there's going to be additional options. Code interpreter, just click on. That's
right.
all you have to do.
There you
That's
go.
all you have to do.
All right.
Alright.
Thank you so much for joining us, John.
Well, thanks for the
Unfortunately,
invite.
We gotta roll to the next segment. We'll be right back.